Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline, and today we're going to talk about weird parts on animals that are growing. Caruncles, breast beards, snoods, weird muscles, glass teeth, all kind of really weird stuff have been developing on animals. Okay, so here you have a turkey. Now, this is a little bit of an older Emmy. A lot of people don't remember them having the bright blue faces and the really weird bumps all over them. Neither do I. Another thing I don't remember is the whole back feathers here fluffing up. I do remember that the tail could fan, but the fan did not include the whole back part of the bird here. So that's a new one for me. Now let's go through these weird new parts. I do remember birds having wattles. Some birds had wattles, especially chickens. Okay, but as we'll see, that has expanded past the bird realm. All right, so more weird things. The snood. The snood is the fleshy appendage that extends over the beak. So this is this giant thing here that now pretty much covers the whole beak. It looks really inconvenient to have that dangling over your face when you're trying to eat. Imagine trying to peck when you have a fleshy thing over your beak. It does not sound cool. Okay, so apparently this is a thing that the males grow the most, while mature female turkeys develop a short snood. On males, it eventually grows up to 5 inches. When a male is trying to impress a female, the snood turns bright red and it elongates even further. So not only is this thing long and weird, but it actually is capable of getting longer on command, apparently. The males with the longest, brightest snoods tend to attract the most mates. So apparently the males can both elongate and redden these snood things here. As you can see, they're quite long. It's hard to imagine how this bird is supposed to peck without pecking this thing. I mean, to me, they look fairly ridiculous. Look at that thing. I mean, look at that. How are you going to eat with that there? Now, I remember seeing these like about a year or two ago, and they were only about as long as the end of the beak, and they would hang off to the side more. They're a lot longer now. I mean, they're getting ridiculous. I just have to wonder how much longer are they going to get. Look, he can barely see through his eyes. His whole beak is covered. It's really a weird look. And now some of them are all pointy like this. And that's just the turkeys. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other weird snood-like things growing on other birds too. Look at that face. I mean, my old turkeys were just kind of plain, and the nice part on them was the tail feathers, and that was really all the only flashy thing that they had back then. All right, so let's talk about the next thing. All right, the wattles, that's the lower part under the chin here. I do remember wattles being on birds. Turkeys might have had them. I'm not going to make that into a big thing, but there are other animals that have them now. That's weird, and we'll get into that a little bit. Caruncles are the warty protuberances on the head of a turkey. Caruncles. What's weird about that is supposedly they can change color and stuff in the turkeys. When male turkeys are aroused, the caruncles around the head and neck turn bright red, while those on the face turn brilliant aquamarine blue. Female turkeys also have caruncles, but all three are all smaller and remain a less noticeable fleshy color. All right, so I remember bird heads being a little bit bumpy. Okay, but you can see that this is just birds in general. These are turkeys here, but I guess all these weird bumps on here are all caruncles. And you can see so many of the birds are getting really weird caruncles now. I've never heard that term before. So all these bumps here would be caruncles. Just so many weird. I mean, this thing looks like it's got covered with ticks or something. There's just so many weird birds now. They just look like they have some. This is supposed to be a vulture, believe it or not. Absolutely does not look real. Look at that thing. Here's another one. I think that's that same weird king vulture. Yeah, king vulture is that weird vulture. Anyway, so many weird birds now and growing such weird things on their head. Anyway, so that's caruncles. Caruncles. Leg spurs. A number of the birds do have like a spike on each ankle. The males do for fighting, so that's old for me. Breast beards. Okay, breast beards are weird for me. Okay, so here is a breast beard on a turkey. You can see that it's like a beard, but it's actually on the chest region. I do remember a couple years ago first learning about these beards on turkeys, but at that time the beards were up closer to the head. They were up over here. They weren't way down here. This thing looks like it was added on. Apparently, a number of birds have these now. I've been noticing them. I've never seen anything like some of these birds. Let's see if I can find some of these other weird ones that have it. Okay, so yeah, I've been seeing birds like this lately with these huge appendages over on the neck. It's been the last year and a half about since I've seen creatures like that. Never before. I mean, it used to be hard enough for birds to get off the ground as it was without having a giant thing on there. See how long this one gets. Now, apparently these get longer on the male turkeys than on the females. Okay, so we discussed the wattles earlier, and I do remember them being on birds, but what I do not remember them being on are pigs. I do not remember wattles on pigs, and they just look weird. This is the red wattle hog. It's a breed of pig that all has these funky wattles, but other pigs have them. They say a lot of feral pigs have them. I have just never seen anything like that. Look at those. They just look like tumors. I mean, if you saw that on a pig, you would think there was something wrong with it. I mean, it's just weird. Look at that. I mean, that does not look normal at all. But apparently it's considered common in feral pigs, not as common in domestic pigs, but that red wattle pig has them. I suspect that we're going to just see more and more of these weird, everything is growing these really funky wattles and dangly bits all over their head and stuff. I don't know what's happening with all that, but it's just weird. Okay, so there's the pig wattles, which I've never seen before. Now let's talk about the goat wattles. Now, I do remember goats originally having this here, which is the little beard thing, although I don't remember it being nearly as long as that. It was about half that length for all the goats I used to see. But now they're growing these dangly wattle things, too. A lot of the goats are getting these wattle things. And look at that. I just had to see. I had to point this one out. In my old timeline, they just did not have that big a rack. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, back to the question at hand. So you can see here, this one has wattles. There's just these little things. I mean, they look like they're such hazards. They could get snagged in anything, torn. And they just look so useless and inconvenient to have. Look, this guy's got two of them. It's just, this one has the beard and the wattles. A lot of these goats have these wattles now. And I had kind of seen them on a couple other goats, and I wasn't sure if it was species specific, and I wasn't sure what they were calling them, so it was a little hard to look them up. But apparently this is going to be the norm now for goats. A lot of them are going to have these weird dangly bits on them. Okay, so the goats aren't the only ones with the wattles. Now, these are moose, and I do remember them having a little tuft under their chin, but the little tuft, it's called a bell now. It's getting much more extreme. I mean, some of these are ridiculously long now. Supposedly the males have longer ones. I mean, look at how long this one is getting. It's all the way down to there. And they're saying that these can freeze and break off in the winter. So they're not very convenient. They definitely look like a snag hazard, similar to the other wattles. And supposedly they're only for attracting females, or at least that's the only thing that they can think that they're for. So anyway, it's just getting ridiculous. There were none that long before. There were just, I mean, I don't know what to say. Look at that one. I mean, I've never seen anything that long before. It was just a little thing before. Okay, so when I was looking through the moose, another thing I noticed was that one of the moose had a red colored antlers in one of the images, and I was kind of confused, and I kind of looked it up, and I figured out now that when the antlers are new, they get this kind of a furry stuff, and they call it the velvet. And then they shed that, and then you have the hard antlers underneath. Now, in my old timeline, the velvet would just kind of flake off. But in this timeline, apparently the velvet comes off in these bloody tatters. Sometimes the moose eats the tatters. And then the whole antler can be red and bloody. It's pretty gross. But apparently that's how the shedding occurs here. You can see this moose is eating the shedded material. So then you will see these images where you'll have this moose with the red colored antlers, and they're so bright. I mean, in this image, it's brighter than, I almost want to say this is photoshopped. The colors are all weird on here. The moose looks lighter than this, and I don't know, that looks photoshopped to me. But anyways, it's supposed to be real. Anyways, so here's another one. Just pretty gross looking. And the deer is kind of a similar thing. Here you can see the start of the shed. That's just so unpleasant looking. Anyway, so moose velvet. They've got red antlers now. All right, so then I was looking at cows the other day. This is a little bit older one. I saw this one maybe 6 months ago. But one thing I've noticed lately is the cows. We've talked about other cow things, but I'm not sure if I mentioned this giant bulbous thing at the front of the cow that I've been seeing a lot of lately. See here. Now, we've talked about the udders being way back, but I do not recall this giant bump at the front. I'm not sure if it has a name yet. I haven't really seen it have a name. This is more like what I remember a cow, but even this one has a bit of the bump. If you look at some of the old animation and stuff, not all of them have it, but some do. Like this one does. This one still has the bump. So it's kind of, here is more like how I remember a little bit. But the udder is still way back. This one's a little bit more with the udder, but it's got the bump. So anyway, a lot of these cows are getting these big bumps in the front. I don't know what the point of it is. See, look, a big one right there. Just looks weird. Another one. I'm not sure what the point of that is going to be. Why have that there? It doesn't really appear to serve any purpose. And look at the hump on this one too. This is weird. Okay, so anyways, there's cows. Now there's some other weird cow things that I've noticed. Now you guys might remember maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, you saw this image of this dog. Now, this dog is a Whippet. The breed is called Whippet, and it's supposed to be a skinny little dog. And to give you an idea, here's what a normal Whippet looks like. You can see that the musculature on this thing is ridiculous. So what came out a few years ago was a story where this one Whippet had this weird genetic disorder that caused it to have double muscles. Or in the case of this guy, it really even looks like triple muscles. So it was reasonably healthy dog, but it had double muscles, and it was considered to be a real rare trait. Well, now apparently we have a whole breed of cow like that. They're called the Belgian Blue cows or bulls, and they're just massive. So they supposedly have this same trait where they're double muscled, and there's a whole breed of them, and they've been around since I think it was 1808. A breed of cows that was identified in Belgium in 1808. These cows display an unusually muscular appearance, and in the years since have been used for both dairy and meat. So anyways, so apparently these things have been around for 100 years, and I never heard of them either. And when I was researching this strangely muscular dog, there was no mention of these ridiculous cows. You could just see they're absolutely over the top with the musculature on these cows. It's just something that you would not forget if you saw it. Look at those things. So this breed's been around a long time, supposedly. All right, so there's one other weird thing that I saw that there's these moray eels that have fangs that look like glass. So they have multiple rows of these teeth, all of them different lengths, and so it's just like the stuff of nightmares, and they look like glass. Now, I was not able to find much info on why these look like glass. They look like they're fairly translucent. I mean, it can't really be the same material you usually see for teeth, but there's very little info on it. Sporting a mouth filled with shards of glass. This is the fang-toothed moray eel. So you have some beautiful images here of these glassy toothed creatures. I mean, I'm assuming that they're not brittle like glass. But there's almost no info on them. I looked at the wiki, and it's this long. The fang-toothed moray eel is a moray eel of the family Murinidae, found in warmer parts of eastern Atlantic Ocean. The fang-toothed moray is distinctive for its bright yellow coloring, elongated jaw, which is filled with a large number of long glass-like teeth. It doesn't appear to be endangered or anything, and there's nothing on it. I couldn't find any more info on the teeth at all. So this one, with this really short wiki, I'm wondering if this creature might be sort of hot off the ME presses, and I'm expecting we'll hear more about these very interesting teeth. So stay tuned. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.